What is up, everybody? It's Joe from JLW Games coming at you with another cool video talking about more Planet Coaster 2 stuff again. And today we're going to be checking all of the coaster types here in Planet Coaster 1, and I'm going to go one by one, and I am going to give my opinion if I think it's going to make it over to the second game or not. So I don't think every single coaster type's going to make it over. It's possible it could, but I think they're only going to pick and choose the most popular and the ones that make sense to make it over to Planet Coaster 2. Some of these we already know are confirmed, so we will kind of get an idea of that. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and head into this and see which of these coaster types are destined to make it into Planet Coaster 2 and which ones might be on the chopping block. So anyways, let's talk about the first two, and that's the boomerang coasters, the Vekoma and the Arrow ones. I think these two coasters are definitely going to make a return for sure. So I think if anything, if they want to make it a little bit less crowded in here, they could, if they wanted to, make this the same coaster type, and then you can just interchange the trains. I think that'd make a little bit more sense because they're to do the same thing. They just have different trains, and they both fit on the track just fine. So that's what I would personally do, is just combine this into one coaster type and give us the option of the Vekoma trains or the Arrow trains. But I think these do make a return in some way, shape, or form. But going on next, we have the crazy one, Looney Turns, which is like the SNS El Loco model. I think this guy will make a return as well. I think, again, I do think a lot of these are going to return into Planet Coaster 2, just so you're aware. But there might be a few on the chopping block that might get replaced. But I do think the El Loco model is going to make a return for sure. And this one's already a given, the B&M Dive Coaster. We already saw that in the trailer, so that one's a no-brainer. We don't even have to discuss this one. It's making a return into Planet Coaster 2, which is exciting to see that that's coming back. As for the Floorless Coaster, the Werewolf, I think also makes a return because this one's just a very much used model in Planet Coaster 1, so I think that one's a given. The Stingray here, I think, also makes a return. B&M Flying Coaster, very iconic as well, especially when it comes to, like, this is kind of related to Manta at SeaWorld, so, I could see that definitely coming back for sure. This is the first one that I think might not make a return, and that is the Pioneer, because it's such an obscure model that, again, I think there's only one in the world, maybe two, I can't remember, but I think it's based off of one coaster in the world. I think this might be one of the ones on the chopping block, because I can't recall anybody hardly ever using this coaster model, and it wouldn't hurt my feelings if it went away. As unique as a coaster as it is, it's not going to, like, again, hurt my feelings if this didn't make it into Planet Coaster 2. But again, it's just an obscure model. I mean, which is it's always cool to have like something unique into the game, but this, I just don't feel like many people ever used it, so I don't think, in my personal opinion, I don't think it's going to make a return. So yeah, just keep an eye on that. And again, maybe everything makes a return into Planet Coaster 2. I don't know. How about the giant inverted boomerang? This one is kind of a toss-up, but I think it will make a return as well. Even though, I don't think it was used a ton by players, but I saw it once in a while and everything, and I think it'd be a shame if it wasn't in the game, but this is one that I think I personally think it will make its return, but at the same time, I think there's a slight possibility it could get the axe as well, but I think it's coming back, though. Next, we have the Intamin Giga coaster, which is definitely going to be back into the game. We already saw this type of coaster in the trailer, especially the train type, so this is definitely making its way into the game. B&M Giga is definitely going to return as well, no question about that, so we're not going to talk too much about that. I do think that the topper track here is going to return, and also the hybrid. If either of these get axed, it's going to be the topper track, because this is not a model that RMC puts out anymore. I still find it interesting that they decided to put the the Timberliner trains on the top RMC topper track. Definitely kind of an interesting choice, but if this makes a return, I think it would be because we would want the Timberliner trains back. But Steel Vengeance is not going to make a return for sure, because I think they would have to do some licensing stuff with Cedar, or well, now Six Flags Corporation, to be able to use this again in a new game. And I think it's just not going to make a return. There could be some sort of, you never know, there could be some Six Flags Corporation packs as well and DLC in the future, but I don't think any of the licensed stuff is going to make a return, because again, they would probably have to go through the whole thing again just to get into the game, but I don't think it will make a return. As for the Anubis, which is the Giovannola Hyper, I think this will also make a return, but it could be one on the chopping block, but I think it has a higher chance of coming back as well. The Aero Hyper, I think, is going to make a return as well. I think it's a very popular model, so I think a lot of the popular models are definitely going to make it back into it. The Viper one, again, I think a lot of these are going to make it into the game, so just keep that clear. I know I'm saying a lot of these are going to come back, but I do solely believe that a lot of these are coming back. So I think the Intimate Impulse is going to be on its way back as well. And then we have this guy, which is the what are they called? It's basically an invert, but I think this will make a return. I think we could see this, instead of returning as this, kind of like the way it is, I think this could potentially be like the new B&M inverts family coasters with the over-the-shoulder lap bars, kind of like Phoenix, kind of modeled behind like Phoenix Rising at Busch Gardens. I think that could replace this one overall, if you had to ask me. And I think this one could come back, but just in a little bit of a different form. So it'll still use the B&M track, just the trains will be a little bit slightly different with the new version and everything. So then we have the B&M invert coaster, which of course will make a return for sure, so no questions there. And then the junior coasters here, I think, will make a return as well, but I think just kind of like the boomerang models, I think they could just have it to where you could do two separate trains here. So I think we'll get them, but I think it would make more sense to just have one track type and then just be able to choose which train you would want. So I think that'd be more of the thing. And then as for the roller coaster, I don't think it will make a return, because they won't have I don't think they'll have like Ghostbusters or anything in the base game, so I don't think this makes a return. And then the junior coasters, I think, could be slightly different when it comes to the train design, potentially. Copperhead Strike, that will not make a return, because I think, again, it's just a because of the licensing they would have to do with Carowinds and everything like that. So I don't think we'll see anything like that in the base game, for sure. Not saying that they couldn't make a return, but I don't think they're going to be in the base game. As for the Torque here, I think it will make a return as well. Because it is, I do think this is a fairly popular coaster type in the game. And then the Vector, I think, will also be in there. Now, this is also a good question, because some of these are part of DLC, such as like the Vector, but will they be in the base DLC, or base game, sorry. That is a good question, but I do think the Vector does make a return in some way, shape, or fashion, even if it is in a DLC as well, because it is kind of like your mock rides multi-launch coaster, so I think it's a very important ride type, and I think, of course, that is very popular. B&M sit-down, I think, will make a return as well. Basically, all the B&Ms will. As for the Sprint 500 here, or like the ride based off of Formula Rossa, the fastest coaster in the world, I think it has a chance to return, but I think there's could be possibility that it does not return. I think the ride's actually closed. The real counterpart is actually closed right now for unforeseen circumstances, and no one knows why. I don't know if it ever reopened. If you know, please let me know in the comment section, but I feel like this is one that has potential to not come back, but you know, I think it's got a higher % chance of maybe not coming back, but you never know, and I think it's one of those things we'll have to wait and see, but I don't think I do think that this has a high chance of maybe not making it back into the game. I don't think a lot of people used it. I don't think it was super popular, but I don't know if it was popular enough to make a return, but we'll have to wait and see. But I'll let you guys kind of be the judge of this one. Do you think this one will come back? And then we have the Strata coaster, which I think for sure will make a comeback as well, because it's just, you know, popular with how tall you can make rides and stuff. But I think it might have some variations, like, oops, sorry if I hit my mic there. I think it'll have some variations, like being able to use an LSM launch, you know, and maybe make something like Red Force. But anyways, and then next we have the motorbike coasters. I think they'll make a return in some way, shape, or form, even if it's a redesign. So they might have like a different kind of design, maybe like more of a generic theme. And again, I think it'll be on the same track, and then you can just switch out the trains if they are more than one. But there might just be one at this point. So, but anyways, I think they do make a return. And then we have the Vekoma looping coaster, which I think will also make a return as well, of course, because I think it's actually one of the ones we saw in the trailer. So those are going to make a return, and the American Arrow, again, these ones you could technically just kind of like the boomerangs, and the other ones you could just do one track style and then just switch out the track. In fact, you could put the boomerang with this and just have those different options in the coaster builder. SLV, I think, will make a return, of course, as well, and some upgrades to the shuttle looping coaster as well. I think they'll make it a lot better than what it was before, and it doesn't have to have some weird, awkward shuttle pieces. I think it'll actually be better. Vekoma Mine Train, I think, will be back better than ever. The prototype wing. This is one I could see potentially getting cut, maybe, or just getting a little bit of a reskin, maybe an upgrade on its trains, potentially. So I think that's one that could slightly change, and that the restraint systems could look a little bit different. As for the freefall coaster, I don't know of anyone that really uses this, and I could definitely see this one not coming back in any shape or form. I think this is one that could get cut easily, but let me know in the comments what you think. But I definitely think this is a coaster type that might potentially not make it back in. Then we have the RMC, the RMC T-Rex track, which still doesn't exist in real life, mind you. It's still a good model. Like, I love how the trains are in this one. They're in this. Like, I really do hope that it makes it back, but I could definitely see this one getting replaced by an RMC Raptor. In other words, they would cut the ties with this coaster model and then put in an RMC Raptor in its place, which would make sense because Raptors actually exist in the world, and there's no T-Rex in the world right now. Maybe we'll get one soon, but I would love to, if it was my choice, I want all the coaster types possible. I would definitely prefer to have both, but I could definitely see that happening where they cut ties with the T-Rex track and put in an RMC Raptor instead. I would prefer them to have both, just in case you never know, we might get a T-Rex here soon, but you never know. You never know. But I could definitely see Frontier saying, you know what, like, this still hasn't been built. Let's go ahead and put the Raptor in its place because everyone wants the Raptor and everything. But I definitely prefer to have both. The spinning coaster, I think, will make it back for sure. Same with the interdimensional. Again, some of these are DLC from DLC ride packs, and I think the interdimensional one is. So hopefully we'll see all of these back in the base game, which would be really, really nice. But we'll have to wait and see. I think all the spinning coasters do make a return though, especially the Wild Mouse might get some upgrades to its design. Potentially, like some of these I think that are coming back though could potentially get a reskin or redesign to either a more generic kind of style, since we have the coaster editor, train editor, where we can actually edit our coaster trains now. So I think a lot of these will get redesigned into a more generic way. So then we have the B&M stand-up coaster, the old generation. So this is an interesting one. We know that we're getting a B&M surf coaster, so I don't think it would be completely I don't think it would be completely out of the way that we would see this get the axe as well, in favor of the surf coaster. I would, again, always hope that we would be able to keep all of them. But since the coaster type is very similar, the only difference is 4 across and the other one's 2 across, and just obviously a more technologically advanced version of the stand-up coaster. But you could definitely tell like that this might be on the chopping block. However, I think it would be kind of cool that you could just swap the trains out. Like, they don't have a dedicated coaster type, like they just have a stand-up version, and you can choose if you want to use the surf coaster or the old generation stand-up coaster as well. So I feel like that could also be a thing. As for the power-up, this one might be on the chopping block just because it's such one of those obscure coasters that you don't see very often. And I don't think a ton of people used it, so it is kind of one that you might not see make it back. I definitely think it could be a possibility that it might not make back. But anyways, the Aero suspended coaster I think will make a return for sure, and then we have the SLC model, which I think will make a return as well. The Gold Fever, I think it's kind of a 50-50 shot. May make it back, may not. I don't think a ton of people used it, but I definitely could see people wanting that one back into the game. I think the Eurofighter makes it back, and I think the Infinite makes it back as well. Some of these I'm just going to skim through because I think they're just obvious choices. Water Coaster, the Mach Water Coaster, I think 100% will make it back because they're focusing on like water coasters and stuff like that. I think that'll be a big focus. And then we have the B&M Wing Coaster will also make it back for sure. I just don't see them not putting this into the game. Again, I think you could do the interchangeable coaster trains on the same track and then just add a launch to the same track. So I don't see the purpose of having 2 separate coaster types when all you have to do is switch the train and have the functionality of launch and lift. Like, they're the same ride, essentially, just a different design. But anyways, I do hope that they make it back. They should make it back. The GCI Millennium Flyers, I think, should make it back. And then we also know that the PTC train Classic Wood Coaster, we already know that's coming back. It would be nice if we have multiple options for, like, maybe, like, different options on the trains, like just have different PTC option trains. The Zephyrus, I think, will also make it back as well. The Bobsled, I feel like this one could get gutted and then maybe have a newer version of the bobsled, because this is the wooden bobsled. I think we could get the more the later version, like the Intamin bobsleds instead of the wooden bobsleds, for sure. Hop the Gaps, I think, could make a return as well. It just kind of depends, but I definitely think it could make a return. And then the Wild Mouse, I think, could make a return alongside like a normal Wild Mouse. I feel like could be in the game as well, which is something we didn't have in Planet Coaster 1. And then I think the X Dimension Test Pilot will make a return as well, because everyone loves X2, right? So, yeah, so I think if you may have noticed, I have my vote of a lot of these coasters coming back into the game for sure. Some of them I'm a little bit 50-50 on. Some of them I'm leaning towards they won't make it back, and then there's some where I think they flat out will not make it back into the game. But there's a few that we already know for sure. Again, like the B&M Dive Coaster here was in the trailer, the main part of the trailer, and the B&M Surf Coaster will be in there too. But I would love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments. What do you think? Do you think that I have a good, valid discussion on what's making it back into the base game? Do you think all of the DLC trains will be, like the DLC track types will be in the base game? Curious to know what you guys think. So, anyways, that's about all I have for this video. Maybe we'll do a flat ride version as well. Let me know in the comment section if you want to see a flat ride version, but we're going to get our first bit of gameplay, so we might have some of these answered in the next week or so, depending on what coaster types they show off and the gameplay. So, anyways, that's going to about do it for this episode, for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe for more amazing content like this, of course, and I'll catch you guys in the next Planet Coaster 2 video. But thanks so much, guys, and goodbye.